I'm Gene Carroll's son, and you're not going to be able to hear me very well, so I'll warn you that ahead of time. I'm just going to tell a little story about a simple family trip. Simple for our family. But planned by my mother, Jean. So, to begin with, you probably know, or maybe not, that she grew up on a Selway, and for her that was idyllic. It was woods and mountains and game, and she loved it. She had a great time. In fact, she told us, and I'm not making this up because I heard her say it many times, that she really wanted to be born 100 or more years prior to that, and male. That would have been better. I mean, she knew that it was a patriarchal society. I think that's improved some. Hopefully it will improve even more. But she did the best she could with what she had. But in 1949, the ranch was sold and she was moved to Kooskia. But she made the most of that too. And soon after that, she had a husband. She was in Lewiston, and she started producing kids. So 6 or 7 years later, there were four kids. And at that time, you could think of it two different ways. One, that she had waited with restraint because she really wanted to go back into the Selway, into the mountains. Or impatience, either way, different point of view, I guess. But the kids ranged from 6 to 1.5. So picture all you people with little kids taking them on, say, a plane ride across the country or the globe. This was a little different. So the adventure started in Boulder Flats, which wasn't that far from here, with family ready to hike up the trail. And it wasn't until I was in college that I discovered what the original route entailed. So we had some maps out, Mom and I, and there were some pencil lines on it. And at some point she told me that, oh, here's the route I wanted to see, Rhoda Creek, and on and on and on. The original route was going to be 70 miles. 70. Okay, we'll get back to that in a minute. So that was the plan. And the gear that was involved, people didn't do backpacking. Almost nobody backpacked at the time. So they managed to get some aluminum pack frames. So they were actually really light and not that well made. But they didn't have any pack sacks attached to them. So in order to put gear in them, they had to take tarps, heavy tarps, and cargo whatever was inside into them. And then the story, as I remember it was attached to the packs with a diamond hitch. Probably not. He was attached to the packs and they didn't fall off. So there you go. It worked. And the two oldest girls, Debbie and Vivian, had little pack sacks like kids have these days, no frames. And they had clothing in them, so not much weight, but a bulk. So that was out of the way. And I didn't have a pack at all.
Because you were?
3 years old. And Ella didn't have a pack. And she also didn't walk. So my dad...
Because I was
1.5. So my dad had a pack and donut on the top. I think I was pissed off about that for a number of years because I had to walk. But my mom, I'm sure it was my mom, figured out early on that the one way to get these kids to go up the trail at the pace of a 3-year-old with 3-year-old legs. So I set the pace, not very fast. But she would say, oh look, there's a huckleberry bush with huckleberries on it. So we go up to that one. Oh look, there's another one up there. And at that rate, we made 5 miles in the first day, which is pretty good. Then we camped at Huckleberry Flats, which is appropriately named. But do the math. 24 days to do the route, assuming the same speed and a bunch of other variables. So call it a month. Yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. So the plan just was in tatters. But we did make it to Fish Lake after 3 days. And we got there, Jim was there. He had horses for us. So the plan changed, kept changing. We went to Wounded on horses. And I do remember snippets of that. Being on a horse, going through the trees. I don't think I've been on a horse before, probably not. And it just seemed like magic. It was so nice to be riding instead of walking. We got to Wounded Doe, we spent a week there, and you know, there could have been some illegal harvesting of dolly farm. I'm not sure. And I certainly have no memory of it if it happened, and the statute of limitations is long, so I wouldn't worry about it if it especially didn't happen. So we probably went back to Fish Lake on horses. I think we did. Yeah, well, I don't think I would have walked. Then instead of hiking out 3 more days, we had planes, 2 of them actually, as I remember, came in to fly us out, which was better because not only did I get to ride a horse, but I got to fly for probably the first time. And so I really enjoyed that. But the plane that my dad and I were on was here, because there wasn't enough room for everybody on one plane, was probably a post-war plane of the First War. Because I'm pretty sure it was cloth covered, not aluminum. And I know this, and I actually remember this, so I didn't hear this as a story. Sitting in the seat in the back, and my feet probably didn't touch the floor, which is good because I could see through the floor. But we made it home. Everybody made it home. I don't know how the car got back to us, but it doesn't really matter. But then Alan tells me years and years later, that same plane that I was on, like a week later, maybe 2 weeks, something like that, made an unscheduled, very abrupt landing, not on an airstrip. But Bert Zimmerly, was that who was flying? No, it was somebody else.
No, it was Lee.
Lee. He walked away. Did he? Were his legs broken?
His legs were broken.
Okay,
yes.
so he didn't
They
walk
found
away.
him seated in a puddle of gasoline, lighting a cigarette.
I was gonna say, any landing you can walk away from, but I guess any landing you can crawl away from.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the plane story. So here's the epilogue of it. Picture somewhere along the Lochside, no idea where, at a real campsite you can drive to. We at nighttime, bunch of stars out, and we're tucked in our sleeping bags, and we have just a fly. Because remember those tarps? One of them went on the ground, the other one came up as a fly. So we didn't have tents. We just had mosquitoes, which my mom always said, "What mosquitoes?" At some point before we fell asleep, Mom, it was probably Mom, they asked as kids, "Do you remember that trip?" And of course there was a ridge line that you could still see. And I think everybody remembered the trip except for maybe Elma, but the next question was, "Do you want to do it again?" And I don't remember what people said as kids, I don't remember. But narrating as an adult what I would have said then, it would have been, no. And hell no. So that's just one little adventure that our family did.